Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Hammer, and it is the Rugby Rant time. And we have got an awesome episode. I'm looking forward to this. Came together at the last minute because this man was just special enough to be willing to join us. But we are joined by none other than John Wayne Cullen, former USA Eagle. What cap number are you? Do you know offhand? You got to know offhand.
I think I'm 456.
That sounds about right. That sounds
Something
about right.
around there. I don't
Okay.
I don't have it memorized. I probably should, but I know I'm in the low 450s.
Okay. You
Anytime someone
came.
asks, I look on my phone real quick and I'm like, "Yep."
Hey, you came in. There was some dudes that came in with you on the same day. Was it Peterson? Wasn't he right around the same time? And
Same match.
same match. That's what I
Myself,
thought.
Greg Peterson, Matt Truville.
Yep.
Um, I know that was the three of us in the forwards for that game against Romania. I feel like I'm missing a back, and I feel really bad. But yeah, me and Greg came in on the same tour and got our first caps.
And by the way, speaking of that, I gotta bring this up. So somebody did a chat GBT because AI is so crazy. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Chat
dude.
GBT came up with said the best ever Eagles roster. And I may try to come up with this one real quick because I loved it so much. But I want to go through and see if I can find this. But while I'm doing that, what were your thoughts on that?
Um, Humbly, honorably shocked out of my mind that I came up on that. You know, I don't know where I fall in that. I certainly know in my heart of hearts it's not the starting number 4 jersey. Um,
Which is where it puts you, by the way.
yeah, and some of the names I've got to pull it up because I'm almost certain there was a very specific name that was missing.
Yes. Yeah. And it's one
And
of your buddies. It's one of your mates.
yeah, there was, I want to say, gosh, I swear I just saw it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm looking for it too because I was going to read off some of the names. It's one of the ones I forgot to. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I got it. I think I got it.
Okay.
Give me a second here. I'll read off the starting 15 when I can find it. Here it is. Here it is. Starting 15. So we're going Mike McDonald, Chris Biller, and this is starting with 1 through 15. Chris Biller, TT Lamosatelli. There he is. John Wayne Cullen at number 4. Luke Gross at number 5. Todd Clever. And one flank, Dave Hodges on the other, Dan Lyle at 8, Petrick, scrum half, Mike Herkus at fly half, Tukudzua, I could never say his name.
Taku.
Yep. Paul Emmerich, the Cactus, Threaten Palamo, Blaine Scully, Chris Wiles with Billups, Khalifi, Pittman, Smith, Ridnell, Dalzell, Malifa, and Anatoni, rounding out the 23. So how about them apples?
So with some of those positions, I think pure ability was factored in over maybe on field, cap contributions, cap numbers, on field play in a USA jersey. But they left out literally the best forward that's ever played rugby in the United States of America wasn't even on the 23. So I have a little bit of trouble that there's no Samu Manoa on the greatest Eagles of all time, 23, as in his time at his peak, I would say is the best forward we have ever produced in the U.S. by a strong margin. And if there's anyone that should have had that 4 on their back, it would be Samu. I think Lou Stanfill is hard to keep off of a list like that. And I think he was around Luke Gross's time, and I'm forgetting his name. Lives in Colorado. One of the best locks we've ever had.
not Brian Vizard. Brian Vizard.
No.
Um,
There's some legendary story that an Eagles camp was once held at his farm because it was
really?
like harvest season.
And he couldn't leave the farm. He had to work.
Couldn't leave the farm, and they moved the camp to one of his fields.
that is legendary.
And I cannot think of his name. It's killing me. Hopefully someone in the comments, someone will know who I'm talking about. I can see his face in my mind, like pictures of him, met him before, shook his hand, and I can't think of his name, but he deserves to be on there as well.
What about Cam Dolan? Like 67 caps?
Yeah. I mean, but he like a Joe Fattate, Big Joe.
Fattate. Yeah.
You know, leading try scorer, not on the roster.
Right.
And Billups is a legend. I think McDonald is a walk. That's a walk.
Right.
Maybe I'm recency bias. AJ at 10. AJ not at 10.
Yeah. You can make a claim for that. I mean, probably what he engineered, at least from the 10 spot, probably one of the best American victories in Eagle history. And accounted for quite a few of those points, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, who knows how Chat GPT folded that? I feel like maybe I have a larger online presence than most of our second rows, and my name popped up too much.
Well, you know what? It's probably because you've been on the Rugby Rant so much. That's my guess. No, but man, be proud of it. I mean, you had a good career. Of course, you're in Utah for a number of years. We're in Chicago last year, and we'll talk about what you got going in the rugby world here in a little bit. But folks, we're gonna have a great show because I've been looking forward to this because I love Cully. We've shared a lot of laughs and sat down and talked a lot of rugby, and we get to do it once again here in the Rugby Rant. Here's what's on tap. So we're gonna do our Around the Pitch. I'm gonna have a little different take because we have such a special guest, and Scott had to attend some family matters, so I just got a little something else brewing on the eve tonight as we record on the eve of Halloween. And then we're going to talk USA Rugby. We've got a big a Northern European tour happening with USA Rugby. And of course, that's why it's great to have a wily vet like John Wayne Cullen join our show because he's been there, he's done that, and he still knows quite a few of the dudes that are on this roster, at least, some of the veterans. He's played with many of them. So we're going to talk USA Rugby. And the big focus is going to be, what do we expect from this tour? Record-wise, what matches do they have an opportunity to win? Should they win? Could they eke out a victory? What will be their overall record? What do we expect for them in terms of gameplay? Where would we like to see them improve? As again, Moonshot is that whole process. Moonshot 2031 is kind of in the works. We're in the midst of Project Gemini. So kind of get a beat on that. And we'll talk about each one of the matches and break it on down. So in just a moment, we're going to come back with the dude, John Cullen, and talk about some stuff that's going around the pitch. All right, we're back. Again, a little fresher take on Around the Pitch, and that we're going to call it Ask a Dude. I mean, it's one of the funny stories, and sitting down talking to JC, that's pretty good. I mean, you made the Chat GBT list. We'll just call you JC from now on. Is that he was fond of saying, when you have a rugby team, you need some dudes. And what he meant by that is just some guys willing to put their nose in that ruck, put their nose where it doesn't belong, and get shit done. Get over the ruck, get your head taken off, get your leg lifted, your shoulder taken out, take a few head knocks and get shit done. And you need a few dudes, and there was no better dude. Yeah, you can tell by his ears that Cully was one of those dudes. Anyway, we're gonna ask a dude. Basically, he doesn't know what the topics are. I'm going to hit 5 topics that have happened recently around the pitch, and he's just going to fire off real quick, like initial thoughts on this topic. And I'm going to kind of build up to some stuff, and we're going to hit upon something that's real near and dear to his heart here in this segment. So first off, and I'm going to put some visuals up on the screen for folks at home. Two interesting personnel moves this week in the MLR. Number one, here it is. Dave Clancy, somebody JC is familiar with, finds a home in San Diego. He was the Hounds attack coach. He was let go with, of course, Chris Latham coming in, who's attack minded in his own right. And then the other one is somebody that John knows very well. I don't have a graphic for it. Paul Mullen goes down in NOLA from Utah, and again, Cullen is well positioned to know a few things about Paul Mullen because they played together. So, Cully, what do you think about these two personnel moves? Sound off, brother.
Yeah, I mean, good for Clance. Obviously, I think, my interactions with him was different. I came in late, learning the system a little last minute. We were in, a weird flux, in that first year. I think everyone's well aware of it. We were trying to find our style. We were trying to find our feet. But Clance, very knowledgeable guy, good with the players. Has some of his best moments, I think, is when he's a bit agitated and he gets his messages out in a much straighter fashion. And it's kind of a couple of moments where it's like, oh, get Clancy a little more pissed off. We get, messages are a little bit clearer. When he was first starting with the group, he had a very experienced backline, very experienced group. So I think there was a lot of bit back and forth and push and pull and tug and, oh, let's do this. Well, we did this here and this was good there. And we were trying to find that. And I've spoken about that before. And then, which, there's a piece of that that's good. And there's a piece of like, hey, boys, this is what we're doing. And we got to buy in and get it done. I feel like that was some of his best moments when he got there, but very knowledgeable guy. I think will fit in well to that style that San Diego already uses with the players that they have and some of the systems they've already got in place. I think he's going to fit in well. Obviously, Big Paul going down to NOLA. NOLA. There we go. And I think it's a good fit. Obviously, NOLA's got a pretty stout front row to start with as well. So adding a guy like Paul is a huge piece for them. And I'm happy to see it. I don't think, most people who are following this follow social media. The Warriors decided to clean house and then some, and Paul was a part of that. So I'm happy to see he found a spot. I think that's a huge pickup for NOLA to add to an already stout front row.
Yeah, I just can't wait to the first time he slaps somebody for coming down into the Crescent City and smiling at him. That's what I'm waiting to see, right? Give one of those hand slaps on the 5-meter line and just say that's he's a dude, right? Yeah. He's an absolute dude.
Yeah.
That's what we love about Paul. That's a good one. I like it. And Noah's going to need some help because they did lose a couple Kiwis that are going back to New Zealand in that front row. And he'll be able to help the guys that are still around and really tune it up for 2025. All right, next one we're going to go with Ask a Dude is Chris Mattina. Again, somebody somebody something a little bit about, is going to be the program manager for Rugby for All USA, which uses the Imagine Rugby piece, and it's really focused on developing youth programs around the New York area, someplace he's from. So, what's your take on Chris Mattina joining that team?
I was ecstatic when I saw him post this. Actually, I saw him posted on LinkedIn the other day. I was pumped. Chris is Chris is a dude. Chris is the man. I got a lot of time for Chris. I mean, I don't know how many times he saved us in Chicago that year. I mean, the kicks he made, when he made them. I mean, Chris is a good guy. I've known Chris for many years, competed against each other on opposite teams for many, many years until Chicago, when we became teammates. I don't think there's any confusion on my bias when it comes to the type of guys I want in those positions when it comes to USA Rugby. And obviously, Chris is, for me, the exact thing that you need for positions like that here. This is a kid from the States, from New York, came up through high school rugby here, came up through the club system or the college and club system here, made his way to high levels all throughout. Very happy for him that he finally got his cap as well. Many years in the MLR, has seen what it's like to come through every level. He knows the challenges and the speed bumps and everything that is surmountable in your way to become a high-level rugby player in the United States. And he knows every level. He's seen it. He can connect and relate to these younger players that are going through. He can prepare them for what's to come, the sacrifices they're about to make, what they're going to have to give up to do this. And I was so pumped for that because it was a great guy coming from the perfect background for that perfect position. It was like one of those few moments in USA Rugby. I know it's not a USA Rugby thing, but in the USA Rugby landscape of the right guy goes to the right position. I was pumped for him.
Absolutely. And, folks that don't know, Chris Mattina has done a lot of kicking camps and kicking clinics and working with youngsters on their kicking prowess. So, again, the Iceman cometh. He is coming back into youth rugby, and it's a place that he's very comfortable with because he's done it for a lot of years in New York when he was with Rooney. All right, next one again. I purposely hit all the ticked all the boxes here with John Wayne Cullen because I knew what he was familiar with, and this one's going to be an interesting. I'm really interested in getting this hot take here, and that is this weekend. It'll be in a couple days here from recording. We, of course, have the semifinals and the men's and women's club rugby here in the Midwest. And, of course, John is in Iowa, so he's steeped in that landscape, knows and is familiar with a lot of these clubs, probably pretty familiar with a lot of the dudes that are playing in the Premiership Men's Club and D2 and D3 men's clubs just because he's coached and played at the variety of levels. So you don't have to talk about all of them, but pick something that resonates with you there, John.
Okay, I was wondering, do I have to make some picks? Might have to leave that graphic up. Unfortunately, well, see, I'm a Lions guy, not like really, but just guilty by association. So I'm rooting for the Lions over there because obviously, I've got a strong connection to the Chicago area now. It's grown on me over the years. So a Griffins Lions final would be pretty cool. Obviously, there's a Hounds contingent on both of those teams that I think only makes everything better. That's a whole other probably rant episode we can get into on the rules with that, but I'm not going to get into it now because that's a whole nother rant. D2, obviously my guys Des Moines missed out on making the playoffs this year. I think they can hold their heads high. They lost to that Wisconsin Rugby Club in the semifinals there by 1 point on the last game of the season. So they were right in it. So I think I'll probably have to show a little loyalty to whatever region that is and hope Wisconsin Rugby Club takes care of business. And again, my now shorter drive club of Bremer lost to the Red River Ruffians in D3, so I was rooting for that. So I'll hold off on that. I think I'm seeing that's all my Iowa guys. But yeah, the Bremer also lost to that Red River Ruffians by 1 point in the playoffs. So Iowa clubs were scratching at the surface to get into the semis. So hopefully next year we can see some Iowa teams in there. Am I still ranting?
Are still ranting, but we're going to move along in our Ask a Dude segment because we want to ask the dude some very important questions about something important to him here in a moment. But let's first pick our fourth topic here, and that is we know that the WER Women's Elite Rugby is coming. Professional rugby is coming to the United States for women. And they just closed the declaration period. 385 women have applied to be part of the WER, 6 teams spread across the United States from coast to coast. What are your thoughts on this, John?
I think it's awesome. I was excited when I saw it. Obviously, I am biased. I have had some. I didn't know too many of the details, and I still don't. I've had some. I have been enlightened or educated a little bit because I was kind of hoping this would come through MLR. There'd be a little more cohesion there. I don't sit at those tables or sit on those calls. I'm as susceptible to the rumor mill as everyone else. I don't have any insider trading. I wish I did, but I was pumped. I love it. You know, obviously, I think our women's rugby team has been hands down our most successful rugby program by a mile, both 15s and 7s. So to continue to support that success is really important. I've been around and involved with women's rugby since I started playing. My sister played on the same club as me in high school. She's played club social rugby all throughout her adult years and whatnot. Most to every club that I've been a part of had a women's club as well. So we've always either practiced together or socials have been around it forever. And obviously I am a double girl dad. So with fingers crossed and hoping and praying that they fall in love with the sport and get interested in playing rugby when they get older. And, thankfully they're at the pipeline now that by the time they get there and the league has had 10 plus years to grow and legitimize and work out all the kinks and all the things that the MLRs had to work through and continually working through. I was pumped. I'm excited to see it. I think it's a great thing where, I think we're seeing now with the success of the women's team, a lot of them, like the men used to have to do, and some still do, have to go overseas, play in the Prem, get down to Australia, New Zealand, pick a country to get your higher level experience and higher level play than even your most elite level of club. And I think anything that does a benefit of keeping that talent here and developing the players here, I think is very important. So I was pumped.
Yeah, me too. And just so people know, 15 national teams with athletes represented in this group, 2 times the number of athletes that they had hoped. And we talked with the president just a couple weeks ago, so go back and check that episode out. And you can also check out my blog. I talk a little bit about, John mentioned the 15s and 7 success, and the women's side has really been the women have really been a successful program since the Women's Eagles got their start, I think 1987. And what's even greater news, and I talked about this in that blog piece, is that in the Women's World Cup in 2025, the U.S. will be playing England in the very first match of the tournament, which is kind of one of those, it's the first one and the last one are kind of those big landscape moments, and the women, our Eagles, get to be a part of that, which is super exciting. So let's see that hopefully this league grows and women continue to develop here, as John said, in the USA, and USA Rugby Women grows with it. And finally, the last topic, I might have to put a governor on them or cut them off or whatever, but the last one, USAR Military Rugby Tour starts November 3rd. Here we are on the 30th tonight, October 30th, just in a couple of days. And I think we know somebody going to this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I know. A couple of people going, Rob. But yeah, I'm excited. Every time I've done anything Army rugby, military rugby, it's always special. There's just something special about it. You got guys coming from all different backgrounds, active duty, guard. With this tour is pretty special. They've allowed veterans to do it this year as well. So that gave me the ability to play, which is incredible. Obviously get some other guys. Dakota Worth will be on the team. Cody Melfi as well. So, a lot of guys who have served, played at different levels, are now out, but still get to come back and enjoy, time with guys in the service is always incredible. Could not turn it down. As much as I keep trying to retire and hang the boots up, something keeps pulling me back. It seems like every time. But this one, it was just something you can't say no to. So I was really excited. I jumped on a flight on Saturday. But we'll be over in England. We're staying at the Sandhurst Military Academy, so their version of West Point, essentially. Staying there, practicing there, training there. It's, I believe, 45-ish to an hour outside of, central London, out to the west somewhere, playing 2 games, one against the British Army team and then another against the British Air Force team. So that's going to be a great experience. I've played against the British Army team a handful of times in sevens and whatnot. So this is my first time being able to play either of these teams in 15. So I'm very excited for that. And then what else? There's more stuff. We'll be out there for Veterans Day as well. In the UK, it's Remembrance Day. So they've got some ceremonies and things that we'll be able to go to. As a team, we're attending the England-Australia test match. So obviously that's going to be an incredible experience in itself. To see a game at Twickenham is always, should be on everyone's bucket list. So you get to do that on a tour like this is pretty incredible. Both games will be streamed on the Rugby Network. So I do definitely want to plug that for anyone interested in watching, fans of the sport, veterans, anyone who's been involved with military rugby or rugby in general. If you're interested, both games will be on the Rugby Network. I'm not 100% sure of the times because of the time change and whatnot. I'm sure it'll be on a weird time, but if you can catch the replay, that'll still be great. A lot of great guys from all the branches. So I kind of talked about veterans being able to play. This one's pretty unique, as most of my experience is played specifically for the Army team against the other services. This one will be all armed forces, all the services, Army, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, Space Force, Air Force. Players from all branches, every branch is represented, and players from all different backgrounds. Like I said, you've got all Americans from West Point and Air Force Academy. You've got former service members and professional international level players, guys who have only played club, played for like local base teams, and have pushed their way through and excelled. So it's a really unique, cool group coming together to do this. And it's always something special.
Man, there is a lot to unpack there, but the things that I picked out that were freaking amazing. What an opportunity to get to see an international match of that caliber in Twickers, right? But even more so, for the common rugby fan, if you didn't get enough or aren't going to get enough rugby over the course of the next, 4 weeks with all the fall internationals and fall tours and, the trips up to the Northern Hem, you got these 2 pieces added in. And for folks that don't have Flow or don't have Peacock, you're going to get an opportunity. You can just check out Rugby Network and for free and check out our military rugby team take on the armed forces, the UK armed forces, their 2 teams. It'll be something special, and look for John Cullen to be on the pitch. Dakota Worth, it's good to see Dak out there too. So awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. Well, thanks for entertaining me. And again, I tried to hit your wheelhouse, and I think we did okay there. I think you felt pretty comfortable, which was awesome.
Not too many curveballs.
No. I didn't want to make it so. It wouldn't be a lot of fun. It was more fun having you, really dig deep for everybody. All right, folks. Well, we're going to come back here in just a moment because we're going to be talking about USA Rugby. Speaking of fall tours, of course, the United States is going to be traveling to Europe to do their own fall tour. 3 test matches as a part of Project Gemini. And we've got none other than John Cullen here, a former a U.S. Eagle in his own right, professional from the United States, to talk about and give us some hot takes and his thoughts on the USA Rugby. We're going to really be focused on what are our expectations, what do you think is going to happen, and not just with record, but also what do we want to see the USA accomplish, of course, because this is, Scott's larger vision of developing USA Eagles to host in 2031 and hopefully get beyond pool play for the first time in USA Eagle history. So with that, we're going to be back in just a moment with our rant. All right, we're back, folks, with the rant. And again, we're going to be talking about USA Rugby, the Northern Tour, and just to kind of Northern European Tour, just to kind of recap for those that don't know, what do we expect to see? On the first meeting will be against Portugal, and that will be, I believe, on, oh, crap, I had it written down someplace. And I don't know. I think it's going to be on the 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. Is it coming up this week? And then they're going to play Tonga on the following weekend. It's going to be on the 16th. And then the final match is going to be against Spain on the 23rd. So that's what we got. We got Portugal in Lisbon, Tonga in Lyon, France, and Spain in Villanueva, place I've played before, which is kind of fun. It should be great weather. Very exciting. But John and I talking, before jumping on camera about how we want to approach this, and I let John take the lead here. And I think what we're going to do is tackle overall what are our, generally what do we want to see from our Eagles on this particular tour. Not only record, what kind of our expectations are, but what do we want to see them do? What do they need to do in order for us to take something away from this and say, yeah, the Eagles took the next step in their development as we make that progression in the moonshot and all the way up to 2031. So, John, I'm going to let you start off here with your overall thoughts on, again, what do we want to see the Eagles tick off? What boxes do we want them to tick off? What do they call it? RPIs?
Yes.
Right? Yep, RPIs. So, yeah, you hit it first. Take it away.
Man, okay. I need to see the development of the attack, because what we saw early in the summer and later into the summer as well, going even back to some of the qualifiers, we're missing something. I'll probably dive into what I think it is on the next one, but we've got to have a development into this attack. It's not asking a lot of questions. There's not a second or third layer to it. We're not changing pictures very often. We're not going off script or, taking some of these chances that you see these higher teams are taking when they're in front of them. And then playing frantic, like, we got to score 21 points in one phase. So I really, really want to see what, they've got a good coach. I think Nick Easter's a great coach. I need to see what the next development of this attack is going to be. I need the second layers. I need the third layers. I need the lines. I need changing angles on the defense, all that stuff. We got to see it. You can't, in the where the game is and where it's going and where these teams are at, the levels that these teams have got to, what we're doing right now is not enough to score points. With that, the second point is physicality and toughness from the forward pack. I'm not one to call people out individually. I don't think I'm saying anything too shocking. We're not putting our stamp on games. We're not making dents. We are not expressing ourselves as a forward pack in a manner that's going to win games and take over and dominate. We're losing contact points. We're not making dents in defense when we're coming off 9. We're not taking carries into contact with the violence that's needed at test level, and we're not putting the shots in. And I'm saying that in a way on purpose because there's not anybody that I can see on this roster, and I'm not gonna dog anyone out individually. There's not anyone I see on this roster that can't do those things. Whether it's a mental or physical hurdle that needs to get over, it's got to get over because every guy on this roster has the ability to do that. But as of right now, it's not happening on a consistent 80-minute game in, game out basis. We're not playing like there's enough pain to want to inflict on other people. So those are my two, the clearest. I mean, I think we'll see a development in the defensive scheme, but those two are what I want to see in my heart.
Yeah, I like those. I do like those because, and I'll kind of touch upon those in my own rant, if you will. But I'm curious. 3 matches here. What are your expectations in terms of record? Which ones do you think we ought to win? And we'll dive into each one independently as we move forward.
So I'm going to take a step back, and this might come off as like a cliche or a cop out, but I'm not too concerned with the win-loss record as much as I'm concerned with the scoreboard of whether it's a win or a loss. The scoreboard is what I'm more interested in seeing. And then this is the worst one because I don't love giving these answers. I'd rather be a little more technical and concrete and something, something like clarifiable that, like a stat or something to it. But like, I need to see, like, I want to see on the eye test that like we are going into like each contact point with something to prove at every step. And I say that because that's, when you watch the top 5 right now, I mean, the level of play is incredible in itself. But what, if you're a podcast nerd or rugby nerd like me and you listen to all the recaps, like 99.9% when you're watching these high level games, what's like the first thing being said? Like, man, the physicality, like, how are these guys doing this phase after phase? Like from 1 to 80, the snap in like the contact points does not change. It doesn't let off. And that's the standard.
Yeah. And I suppose that's why South Africa has been so consistently dominant, through two World Cup windows, right? Is just because they've seemed to have mastered that physical battle. Whether it's the bomb squad and just Rassie's ability to bring those guys in at the right points in time so that they're as effective, if not more effective than the starters, right? I mean, why else would you put a guy like Malcolm Marks on as a sub so frequently, unless you come on as a sub and really do, like you said, which is really put that snap into the physicality and make a difference. So yeah, I don't think it's a cop out to say what you said about not so much as about scoreline as about what they're able to accomplish and achieve in the process to show growth and development on their way to 2031. I think sometimes the rugby public gets too myopic about wins and losses rather than, like you said, looking more at the technical pieces. So for me,
like where we are in this World Cup pipeline, I don't really care. I want to see when I'm watching, like where I can block out the scoreboard and I'm watching, like this game looks like we are playing. And so you could be in some of those games and it may be a 45-25 game, but it's not indicative of what I just saw. And I've seen a 20-17 game, but the team that won was so much more dominant than the score. And, there's like an eye test thing that I want to see.
Sure.
And we're so far out. When we get closer to a World Cup, I'm like, yeah, I want some wins. Like I want confidence.
Right.
I want the product to be there.
There needs to be a crescendo, right?
Yeah. Right now there's something that needs to, there's like a that needs to get in there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's kind of interesting. You talk about attack development. I think that's a great point. I often remark that in the last three tests, we saw this in the Pac Nations Cup there, the PNC. Our attack was too direct, right? We didn't have that typical layered attack that you're used to seeing.
They're just running at walls.
Right.
They're just running at a wall. And I'm like, that's where I feel bad too, because it's like I've been in those situations. And let me preface it. I do not question any of these guys want to win a game. That's not.
No.
I'm being very clear on that. Well, you know how the internet is.
Yeah.
I just want to be very clear. But because I've been in that where it's like you're going for another ball off 9 with just 6 guys in front of you, basically arms linked,
right.
Red Rover. And you're like, oh my God.
And you got one guy hitting low, you got one guy hitting high, and another guy ready to jackal the shit out of the ball.
Yeah, every time. Can I get a half gap? Something.
Yeah,
give me something. And so I feel bad, but I'm a forward and I have a way that I play, so I'm always going to call that out because it still is what it is. But yeah, they're running at walls, and then the back line is running at a full line.
Right.
They're not. There's no dent. There's no cut. We don't have those moments, and this is why I know it can happen because the top teams do it to each other.
Yeah.
You don't have those moments where it's that forward ball, strike, hard line, out the back, something, and that third pass goes. You've made that second or third pass before contact's made, and it's that 5-on-2, and you're like, wait, hold on, how are so many of them still on their feet?
Right, right.
So this math ain't mathing. How did that just happen? And then that last defender is in just oh shit.
Yeah. He's trying to figure out who does he take out.
Yeah, we're not doing that to teams. God bless them. They are earning every single point that they're getting, but they're working so hard to get it.
Right.
I'm not an attack savant by any means. I played in the row. I nerd out and I learn and I coach and I've learned these things, but I'm like, we've got to add that second and third blocker line. We've got to add something.
Well, and to me, if we look back at August and the PNC, the Japan match kind of really represented that, where Japan almost always seemed to have an extra man or two outside, and Nate is or Mooneyham is just trying to do the yeoman's work, being the last line of defense, right? I agree with you.
They're getting triple tackled on the wing.
Yeah. Yep.
That's where something didn't go right. If there's 3 guys on their feet to tackle your wing, and you're just shuffling the ball good luck. Yeah. Something 5 phases ago is not doing what it's supposed to do.
Right. And so then to your other point, physicality of the forwards, I think Romania for me really represented that this summer, right? Is that we look good in the first 10, but then when we didn't score, we really didn't put our stamp on the game, and Romania used physicality to get themselves back in, and they were a physical team. So I agree with you on those 2 points. I think for me, I want to see better. I think their defense came along between the July internationals and the PNC competition, especially in structured play. But I thought in loose play is where we kind of lost some of those battles. Although I thought we played really, really well against Fiji, one of the games where you put your hand over the score and you went, hey, I'm fairly happy with how we played that game. I think, just 1 or 2 places, the physicality and the play in the loose, kind of let that match get a little bit out of our reach. Again, more creativity in the back line. I'm right there with you on that one. And I want to see the forwards control the set piece close to the line. I mean, we put the ball in the corner. We've gotten opportunities with penalties to put that ball in the corner and get the rolling ball. I mean, what is it, 28% internationally of rolling ball of scores are generated from the rolling ball that's put it over the line, right? We've got to be efficient at that point, and I think we've lacked that efficiency. So I'd like to see the boys really do well at making that connection, not make that line out initial throwing error, get that connection, get the rolling ball, get it back inside toward the line so we won't get pushed out and win the battle up front. So those are the things. Oh, and fitness to close out matches. I'll talk about and touch upon this when we come back and talk about each of those matches. So that's one thing I think that's improved upon, and I'd like to see it improve even more, and there's a reason why. So now that we've got that, let's tackle each one of these matches point by point. The first one, maybe I have it. I think it's on the 9th. I misspoke earlier. It's 11/9/2024. It's in Lisbon, Portugal. And what are you expecting here? What are you looking for? We're just doing a quick outtake on each one of these.
Yeah, I think we have an opportunity to do well in this game. Obviously, there's some weird stuff going on with Portugal right now. I know they're having some strange issues with their union and all that stuff. I don't know if that's a huge factor into the game, but it's a distraction. So
yeah,
it's always good for us.
At an international level, when there's a distraction, there's a minute gap or difference, it can be exposed.
Use it. I think we can do well. This is if we have college football fans on this, this is like, don't look at the logos with Indiana type of thing. This is the hard one where, when you look on paper, you would think the USA rugby team should not have much difficulty with the Portuguese rugby team.
Right.
Now, we don't get that grace. So put
right.
that out of your mind of what you're thinking and your, red-blooded American spirit. But
yeah, it's funny you say that, John, because, again, I agree with you here. 2-1-1 historically against Portugal. So, I mean, record says, at the 50%, we should be able to beat them and get a W. 35 plus 35 on the point differential. But we lost to them in the last meeting on 8/12/2023, 46-20.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was what? Yeah, that was last fall.
Two falls ago. Yeah. Last fall. Sorry, you're right.
2 falls ago. So different team, different setup. Was probably in a very different that group was probably in a very different mental space at that time when that went down. So I don't want to hold that against them too much. And
because that was a qualifier, was it not?
Yeah.
The sphincter was maybe a little bit tighter, folks.
Yeah. So it's I think they can do well. It's still tough. I'm still so torn on this. Like if I look up and it's a similar score, I may not be shocked. But if I look up and it's a similar score in reverse, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
That's a tough spot to be in as a team because you still play for the US and the expectations don't change just because we know the intricacies of rugby. It's a tough one with games like that because if it's the same score, you get here we go again. And if you beat them 46-20, it's like, well, yeah, you should.
Yeah, right.
And that's brutal.
Yeah. That's a push. What I think is interesting here, and this is where I'm going to go back to one of my points about fitness, is that that last match that we're talking about is the World Cup qualifier. We were down 22-13 at half, right? So, I mean, it was in our grasp. It was a converted try, and then you get a penalty at the right time, right at the end, and you win that match. Yet we ended up losing by that scoreline, that differential of 26 points. So we let the game get away from us. And I think some of that came down to fitness. All right. So, and by the way, let me add this, folks. I like that this match is first. And here's where I like this match is first. And just looking at our total schedule this year in 2024, we go into Romania. I think one of the things we're on our heels there simply because we're coming off the MLR season. Wasn't a lot of time for these guys to get in camp and prepare and get some continuity going between them, whereas Romania had about 6 weeks. Talked to Robert Remescu, who plays for Romania, and the Romanian coach. And they had about 6 weeks in camp together. So, that scoreline, when you think about that context, not all that unexpected within that context. And then we get to the the August Internationals PNC, and I think we performed pretty well. Yeah, we lost a number of those matches, but having said that, I think we kept the score lines with Fiji pretty close, and with Samoa, pretty close. Japan loaded us up a bit, but all things said, now we have that opportunity in camp. The boys are there to get together to get continuity, and probably the toughest game, really get out in front of that one first.
Yeah.
So, all right, what about Tonga? That one's on 11-16. What are your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, I think what you're saying, I love the order. It's this, the same order as last fall, which I think was smart for them. Tonga's always going to be a tough match. Tonga is a tough match for anyone who plays them. Even if you beat them by 50 points, it's still a tough match because it's Tonga.
Physicality.
Yeah,
Comes
so
back to
no
your
matter
point earlier.
what, when you go into one of these games, you got to be ready for that. But again, we still have the ability to beat them. And they've improved substantially since I've played them. Obviously, with the growth of Super Rugby and more of their players getting opportunities there, more of their players getting opportunities in France and whatnot. They've improved. They obviously, most of the Pacific Islands have their issues that they have to work out. They've got a bunch of hurdles to jump over to come together and play. So that's one of those countries where we kind of talk about the difficulty of getting together.
Yeah.
They've probably got it worse than most, and they find a way to do it. So credit to them.
At least with Moana Pacifica, they have a high level of rugby environment to be competing in for club season.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, going from maybe playing at the NPC or Pro D2 level to now you're playing Super Rugby matches every week.
Yeah.
That's a huge improvement.
Right.
But I mean, obviously going to be tough. I still think, again, it's so funny we have these scores up here. If last year's score was the same, I may not be shocked. And if last year's score was the same in reverse, actually, to be fair, I'd be pretty pumped if we beat Tonga. I'd be pretty ecstatic about that. That'd be an incredible win. I don't know our all-time against them. I know it's always close. It's always physical.
It's funny you say that. You asked that question. 1-9, right? So out of the last 10, 1-9, minus 119 point differential over those.
I didn't think it would be that point differential.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. The last time we played them was in 2019 in the Rugby World Cup, and it was a 31-19 loss. Mm-hmm. Having said that, what I think is interesting about this matchup, and maybe I misspoke about Portugal being the toughest of matches, I think Tonga might be, but put this in context. Here's what I didn't like about that matchup. And I remember being pissed because if you recall, there was a tsunami coming. They had to move the match. The United States had to play on 3 days rest after having played Argentina, right? One of the two tough matches in the pool play. And then they had to play a Tonga, the match that in that pool that they had the best opportunity to win. And I remember being pissed, like those sons of guns at World Rugby did not do a tier 2 nation any favors in this one. So, again, US was winning 12-7 at half. Or was they winning 12? It was a 5-point match at half. That's how close it was. And then they opened it up a little bit, and it was a 12-point differential at the end of the day. So, I don't know. I think like you said, if they win this one, I'd be ecstatic. I'd be ecstatic with that.
Yeah, again, it may be a tough ask. This is probably number one with a star of the match where I don't really care about the win or the loss. I care about what that game looks like, how you perform.
Yeah.
Because again, you could get another 31-19, but it could be a completely different 31-19 that I'd be like, actually, you know what? I'll take that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is going to be an interesting one. I like having it second because they get an opportunity to develop some chemistry against Portugal and then come in and play this tough match against Tonga.
If it's a 31-19 where it was quick math 24-19, you're still playing your nuts off and they score a late one.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
Yeah.
If it's 31-12 and
You score that last try.
not that I'm saying a Polynesian player would ever do this, but maybe in the last 5 minutes they take the foot off the gas and you score that 31-19. I don't like that.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. That's a great point. I love it.
That's a way different 31-19.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's money right there. Take that to the bank, folks, right there. That's an important thing to watch, especially at the end of a match. And that's why I invited John on today, because I knew he was going to bring up those super salient points. All right, let's take the last match against Spain. Let me hit that history. We're 4-0 against Spain. Last time we played them is 11-19-2023, kind of right on the heels of Rugby World Cup, just as a way for us to get matches. We have a 170-point differential, and the last meeting was a win at 42-12 in the same place the match took place the last time, which is Villanueva, Spain. What are you seeing here, John?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that must have been a World Cup warm-up, so a lot of times together, coming off 2 tough losses, so probably in a good space to finish on a win. And I think this is those other games that we talk about where this is probably the one, if any, where that W matters. Because if we want to take that step, we talk about the on-field, the tactical, the X's and O's and whatnot that we'd like to see as like a rugby nation culture. That other one is the game. Like, you have to win the games you are supposed to win.
Yeah. Yes.
And I don't always like saying that as a former athlete, because I don't think I ever walked into a game at that level like, oh, well, we're supposed to win, so like, whatever.
You never took it for granted.
And that's the wrong mindset, of course, as a player, but like, there's still – this is a game we are supposed to win. We are not supposed to lose to these guys. We have – it's talent, this, that, and the other. We are supposed to win this game. I hear like Coach Saban voice in my ear right now, like smacking me in the back of the head for saying that. But like, as a coach, I would never say it. As a player, I wouldn't say it. But as the outsider, when we're talking about the culture of the sport in the country, these are games that we need to go in and win 42-12 every single time we play Spain. You can't have a whoopsie against Chile and Spain or Germany, or these teams that are lower than us in rankings. That's another like step that we don't talk about. Like, you can't have those anymore if you want to chase Samoa, Japan, Argentina, teams like that.
Yeah, if you want to be knocking on the door of top tier 2, maybe even occasionally get into that, take a top, a backside tier 1 to the wire. You gotta win games like this consistently. And here, I think the point that you were talking about earlier, the way that you do it, I think is important here too, right? This is a game that start to finish, the boys should have under control. You may have give up an odd penalty. They kick to the corner, they get a nice rolling ball. You can't take that away from them. Good work, but you can't let those big plays.
They're gonna have some silky Spaniard back there at 15. He's gonna have a nice little slice and dice. You may give up something like that, but like, it should be like, okay, hey fellas, like, don't let that stupid stuff happen.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be getting 11 phased down the field. Try.
Right. Exactly. So all in all, I think the expectation for you is 2-1.
I would be ecstatic. I would be ecstatic with 2-1.
2-1, ecstatic. Okay.
1-2, depending on performance, you can swallow that. 0-3, there needs to be conversations.
Yeah, deep disappointment, right? Disappointment. I think that's interesting. And I one thing I'd like to see is especially in that Spain match, I want to see the U.S. play fast. Scott, I think we know you're familiar enough with Scott Lawrence and how his Atlanta teams played, et cetera. I think one of the principles he plays on, or he prides himself on, is having the boys play fast, right? You need to be fit in order to do that. And I want to see them, I want to see fast ruck speed. I want to see fast ruck ball, force that defense to have to hustle, to fold over and get in their proper defensive structure and get themselves organized. And don't let them do that at times when you got them on their heels, and really allow yourself opportunities to create space and with a layered attack, with a, well-organized attack system like you talked about earlier. So yeah, some big internationals, big matches come from the United States. I think it's important that they take that growth, approach towards what they do. Not as much with the wins and losses. Obviously, 1 and 2 would be okay, and 0 and 3 would be a severe disappointment. And a 2 and 1, we'd really come away with feeling pretty good about ourselves, especially if we play well in all 3 matches. So, last thoughts about the United States, and just generally where the program is going under Scott's tutelage.
Yeah, I mean, he took over in a tough spot. I think Scott's one of the most respected American coaches that we have. There's kind of that short list that people spew out. I think he's well on his way to being in there. And so there's a lot of faith and belief, and I think it's nice to see it. I come back to this, but I think it really does matter. Like, it is an American coach too.
Yeah.
So it's, I want him to succeed probably more than I've wanted any other coach to succeed, but I that's what I want. I mean, there's one-offs throughout the rest of the world that right fit, perfect, all that stuff. But I mean, you've seen most of the greatest of the greats, had a coach from that country leading his guys, through test matches. And, there's different factors, but it's still, it's easy to root for that. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I hope for the best. I think some of us that have had many years in this maybe have a little bit of the beaten dog syndrome. we just keep coming back for more, hoping for a treat. But I'm hopefully optimistic. I want nothing but the best. I have never want anything but them to win every game. But you always, there's that other side. Scarred of USA Rugbyisms.
Yeah, I hear you. So some interesting matchups here. Check out the lineups. There's some opportunities for some debutantes to get their first cap. Probably notables for me, maybe just because of my proximity to the Chicago Hounds, or Mark O'Keefe, the guy who's just qualified. Well, I think he's 30 or 31, so certainly he's up there in age, but he's an opportunity to get a new cap here. And of course, Noah Brown, who's a young guy, up and comer, really showed out last season. It'll be good to see if he gets his first cap. Trying to think and see if there's any other guys on here that stuck out. I think those are the couple big debutantes, if I'm not mistaken, because BSAG and Storty have already been capped.
Yep.
Mark, and Mooneyham's really, really playing well, with the USA jersey. So it should be some really good rugby coming up. I think it's going to be on Flow. So look for it there. And there's a match on Peacock. I think the Tonga one possibly is on Peacock, and the other two are on Flow. So check those out. And of course, if you don't have either of those, certainly check out the U.S. military rugby tour that is going to be coming up. That'll be on the Rugby Network. Should be exciting as well. And look for our own John Cullen to be lacing them up, coming back.
I had to get a haircut before going out there.
That's a tour cut right there. That's a tour cut.
I told him I'd shave the beard, but I'm keeping the stash. I'm not in. I don't have to follow those rules, but I'll try to blend in. Yeah, well, that's customary. We know Doc, if you're listening, laid up with that Achilles. Doc would approve of the stash. So, one of those dudes that I always like to see
around the pitch. So there we go, folks. John, thanks so much for joining us. I always, my rugby knowledge improves every time we sit down and talk. And that's what I love about these conversations with you. I'm so glad you took time out of your busy schedule between life, family, and all the things that you got going on there in Iowa to join us on such short notice. It has been awesome. And again, folks, we're really looking forward to these Far Island Nationals. We're going to we'll probably take a break here for a little bit in December, and if there's a, schedule drop, if there's a new kit drop, we'll of course come out with an episode, and we'll come up with some new RPKs, some run passer kick interviews. Got those in the mix, but a lot of good stuff happening because again, we're trying to grow rugby one fan at a time. Thanks again, John, for joining us. Say hi to your lovely wife and your beautiful girls, because my wife and I just got such pleasure out of meeting them and getting to know them a little bit last year. So good luck to them and good luck to you on tour.
Thank you. Appreciate it. They better still be in bed, so hopefully I can. I'll be
Daddy! Yeah,
no.
I know. I don't have that anymore. Sometimes I miss it, but most of the time I don't. So, anyway, all right, guys. Again, another Rugby Rant episode, and we will see everybody at the next.